for those of you who don't know me, my name is Davor Jerbic. I'm working at Real Networks here in Zagreb. Currently I'm working on Xbox frontend, and before that I was working on Real Player Cloud for Chromecast. And that was really interesting, so I decided to make a talk about it. I was planning to present this talk in Croatian because I'm not that good speaker, so expect minor pauses or incorrect phrases or stuff like that. So I'll be presenting the Chromecast in this talk. We'll talk about the device itself, then I'll present some reasons to build an application for Chromecast. We'll talk about how does it work. We'll talk a bit deeper about the SDK available for the Chromecast itself. I'll show you an example. It will be a real simple example, but you'll get the hang of how things are working. Then I'll say a few words about Chromecast future, and then in the end we'll have some time for questions. And if anytime you have any question, you can stop me and ask the question right away. So, what is Chromecast? First, let me ask you, how many of you have worked with Chromecast before? Like developed anything for it? Okay.
Touched, yes. Developed is serious word.
Yeah, but how many of you have it at home for streaming? One? Only one? Wow. Yes.
US so
I have it privately, and it's a great device, and I've been working for it, so it is really, so there are two reasons to get it. So it is really small. I don't know if you had a chance to see it. It is connected to the TV here. It's a bit larger than a regular USB stick. It was developed by Google in cooperation with Netflix. Netflix was the first application that was published, and it was published the same date the Chromecast was announced and went to market. The greatest thing about it is that it costs only $35, and so it is really acceptable to everybody. So it is built for running the web applications. They are not regular web applications. We'll come to that later. They have some constraints, and we'll talk about it later. Primarily, it's built for multimedia streaming, but it can serve other purposes too. So, what's inside it? There is only one model of Chromecast, and it is named H2G242. So even though this sounds as a random bunch of numbers and letters, it is not. It is a reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy. And 42, 42 is the answer to the questions. The only interesting part about its hardware configuration is that it has hardware support for decoding high fidelity streams, so it can output 1080p HD video. Basically, on it you have a simplified version of Chrome OS, which when it starts opens up a Chrome browser, but only one tab. This thing you see right now is Chrome, just as regular Chrome, same as on your computer, but it doesn't have the status bars and all the menus and everything. It's just one Chrome tab. So, interesting thing is, how do you communicate with it? So there's no input, there's no keyboard, there's no mouse touching, nothing. You have SDKs available for Android, iOS, and Chrome. For Android, iOS devices, and Chrome extensions can also communicate to it. And yeah, this icon here is the icon for casting. Each application that supports casting, the verb-based casting, will have this icon probably in the menu or somewhere in the application. That's the button you'll tap for connecting to Chromecast. So why should you build an application for Chromecast? Well, besides that everybody else is doing it, building an application for Chromecast brings your solution to You'll get a new feature which your users will greatly appreciate. And I know that because I'm a user, and the first thing I do when I install a new application on my mobile phone is check whether it can connect to Chromecast. And the other thing is, I built an application, Real Player Cloud for Chromecast, partially. And I can't talk about numbers, but let's just say that Chromecast is the main feature why users are coming back to our application. So you really want to have this feature in an application. I'm talking about mobile applications and web applications, of course. It is really easy to develop an application, and easy means cheap in manager's terms, so everybody's happy. So how does it work? So when you saw there were some problems connecting it, but usually it is much faster. You have to connect it to Wi-Fi. Then MDNS is used for device discovery, and once the device is discovered, sender devices, meaning Android, iOS, or Chrome, invoke the application on Chromecast. So basically, if I open a YouTube application on my mobile phone, I cannot invoke that now because my mobile phone is generating the Wi-Fi. So, oh, I can. So you'll see now YouTube application is running, and my mobile phone is the remote for it. I can also disconnect. The application on the sender device and the application on my mobile phone then communicate with the WebSockets. So even though these things sound easy, they are even more easy because all these actions are abstracted in the SDKs. The interesting part about this is that the application, once ran on Chromecast, can communicate to the outside world just as any other web application can. And the traffic generator will not go through the sender device. So there is no bottleneck here. You're probably wondering, what about security? You all can connect to my Chromecast now if you want to. You just have to get access to my Wi-Fi. And that's the thing. The Chrome didn't implement any additional security besides having the Wi-Fi security. You have to know the password to my Wi-Fi, and then you can access my Chromecast. Other thing is, your application for Chromecast is run inside a Chrome browser. So basically, all the other security constraints that apply to regular web applications are applied to the Chromecast web applications as well. So how to implement the receiver? Implementing the receiver means that you have to build a custom web app. Custom because you don't have regular input devices, you have communication with your sender devices only. To do that, you have to include this JavaScript file, and in it there's the SDK which provides only 4 classes. That's the Cast Receiver Manager, Cast Message Bus, Cast Channel, and Media Manager. Cast Receiver Manager is the most important one. It handles the communication to senders, and it is a factory that generates Cast Message Bus and Cast Channel classes. Cast Message Bus and Cast Channel classes are used to actually perform the communication with the senders. So they're used to receive and send out messages. Cast Message Bus is used to broadcast messages to all connected senders. And Cast Channel class is used to emulate end-to-end communication to only one sender. There's also a Media Manager class, which is basically a wrapper around the HTML video element, and it provides additional features for easier video handling strings and stuff like that, subtitles. So I don't know if I've said, but developing is easy, and there are the main reason for that is that you are on the Chrome browser, which means you're developing a web application, but you don't need to support Internet Explorer. You don't need to support Internet Explorer 6. You only need to support Chrome, and you only need to support the latest Chrome. And why latest? Because Chromecasts are automatically updated, and you can't do nothing about it. For it to function, it must be connected to the web, and if it's connected to the web, it will update automatically. That's the good thing for applications. And debugging is also easy. You have access to Chrome developer tools on the Chromecast IP at port 922. I'll show you that in an example later. But there are some problems. It is still a relatively new technology, year and a half old maybe, SDK went in later in public. So there are some known issues. I was planning to present this talk using Chromecast screen share, but then yesterday evening when I was practicing this, it was like 10 seconds late, sometimes even more time, and it crashed 2 times. So I decided to present it as this. The second biggest problem is its hardware performance. It is relatively weak, so it has special hardware for running HD video, but anything but that is a bit problematic. We were working with something with images, and we handled large images, and we wanted to do some animations with it, like panning and zooming, and the frame rate dropped really to small numbers, like 5 frames per second. Also, if you don't want to do any kind of computations on it, it's really slow. And the last thing is not actually Chromecast's problem, but you'll eventually end up with it, because if you want to serve some media on it, you will have to implement the cross-origin resource sharing headers on your server side. Because the application that is run on Chromecast is hosted on some web server, and the chances are that your media is not on the same server with it. You are inside a Chrome browser and you cannot access another domain. Chrome browser cannot do that because of security reasons. So one more thing you'll have to check with your server side, guys. So, example. So it is a really simple example. I have this simple box here, and the things I write down here will be presented on Chromecast. So first thing is I have to connect to Chromecast. Okay, now we have an application running on Chromecast. That's it. It's really simple. This is actually a world example developed by Google. I just hosted it on my server and ran it now. So I'll show you the source for the receiver and the sender side. They are really simple and wouldn't take long. So basically, this is the sender side, meaning this is a web application which uses Chrome extension for casting. All the logic you have to implement is inside this function, basically. You have to create session request object and API config object and then initialize casting. I didn't talk much about this sender side because I haven't actually been working on it. I've been working on the receiver side, so I'm not an expert, but it can easily be seen from this example that there's not much to do here. Other stuff is just event handlers, like session created handlers and
zooming for you guys back there.
Enough?
Yeah.
Okay. So the other stuff is just basically event handlers and one function that sends a message. It is really that simple. The only thing which is mandatory for this communication is that each message sent has to have a defined namespace. That's the Google design scheme. Other thing is other data can be arbitrary. The message that is sent is in JSON format, so you can send pretty much anything to Chromecast.
And how do you stream videos?
There is a web application. You just have the video tag and you put an URL on it. It will handle itself. Or inside the Chrome browser. So you don't have to implement any logic. It's all stuff. You have everything from the
on the receiver.
Yeah. This is the receiver side. So as I've said, SDK is included. Then this cast receiver manager is created. Actually, it's only obtained its instance. Handled events, and then later one message bus is created for specific namespace. And the message is handled, actually only display text function is called, and then response is sent back to the sender so that it knows that the transfer has been successful. We can check here. We have a log, so we know that everything went well. I was talking earlier about debugger, so just a second, I have to check what the Chromecast IP is. So all of you who have developed anything for web, you probably know about Chrome developer tools. This is it. This is the developer tools for this tab. So if I go over this div, you'll notice that it highlights here. And it's live, so if I write down something here, it will update here. So it's really easy to debug and put breakpoints. You can do anything, so you can see. You can do everything you usually do when you develop regular web applications. How to get started with it is also very simple. You need to have a Google developer account. You need to pay $5. It's not such a price, but you need to fake actually, I believe, to prove that you're not a robot. So. Then you have to register your application at the Google Developer Console and whitelist your Chromecast for testing during development. So this Chromecast is whitelisted so that it can run this application. So unless application is published, no Chromecast can run it. And that's the only security principle Google enforces. So if you create your application, you can run it on your Chromecast, but no one else can. If you want to publish it, you have to go also through the console, but then Google has to approve it. They also cross-check it and see that there are no backdoors and stuff like that. And only a few things about future. On the latest Google I/O conference, they announced an interesting thing that they are developing a technology which will allow you to connect to Chromecast without being on the same Wi-Fi. And I don't know how they will do it, but it seems interesting that you can control your TV at home from anywhere in the world. Backdrop is some kind of a social networking feature like streaming. I didn't read about it much. But I personally want to know what will happen in the future if the next Chromecast versions get stronger, and then it will be interesting to see what kind of applications will be developed. So I don't know, maybe games or medicine applications. Anything can be interesting. That's it. Any questions? Okay.
You said the performance of the device itself is not much.
Yeah.
But do you know the data rate from the sender? So I'm interested in how fast can you send messages from the sender application to the receiver?
Well, your Wi-Fi is the bottleneck.
So it's just that.
Yeah. And its performance. If you're just reading data, and this might. I can tell that we have managed to stream HD to it, and it was performing okay. So we have actually Real Cloud application for the mobile devices, run as a media server, which allow Chromecast to stream from them. So Chromecast streams from your local Wi-Fi, and it works out okay. Other than that, I haven't been trying anything.
I was thinking maybe a controller. You know, if your mobile device uses its what's it called? The thing that tells you how the mobile device is moving.
Gyroscope.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
accelerometer.
Yeah, that's one. So if you
no,
get
it's just basically text data, it won't be and there will be no problems.
How do you publish applications? Where do you publish them?
Google Developer, what is it called actually? I don't know. Something like Developer Console, Google Developer Console.
Something like Web Store?
I don't know what Web Store looks like for developers, but you just remove
Chrome Web Store, like very good extensions.
Yeah, yeah. It's really simple, maybe to, I don't know, possible. We can share it, so...
So basically the device is there, and it will just listen for anything that's that you send it.
Yeah. If you connect to my Wi-Fi, it has no password, you can invoke any application.
So anything I do, I can just send anything
no,
that I do in Chrome.
Not anything.
That I do in Chrome that has that Chrome as
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Most of the multimedia applications on mobile devices have the ability to connect to Chromecast. Like, I don't know, radio or Spotify, Rhapsody, YouTube, anything.
Thank you for the fine introductory presentation. But I would like to know, are you familiar with the biggest competitors related to Chromecast?
Well, I'm not sure which ones are acknowledged as biggest competitors, but I'm familiar with Roku. Actually, I'm developing an application for Roku, also a real player application. And I know that Amazon published Fire TV recently and about Apple TV. I think Chromecast will take the market for itself because it costs only $35 and the others can compete with that.
Well, I don't think the price
So
is the issue.
Apple TV is not the same.
I don't think the price is the issue. Apple TV, I find better quality, better speed, but it's rough it's not that smooth for development, it's my impression. Please, could you tell me more about that?
For development?
Yes, because you're developing it, you have experience, you have hands-on.
Yeah, well, I don't know what to say. It's just like developing a regular web application. You know, you're using HTML and JavaScript. We were using Google Closure framework because the actual SDK they wrote was written in Google Closure, so it was kind of a good thing to use it. The other things, I don't know what else to mention. It's just like any other web application. But it is easier since you are only on Chrome browser and you don't have any user input. You don't need to handle the keyboard events, mouse events, dragging, dropping.
Do you have an emulator? Do you have to have the device to develop? Can you
I can open the...
Can you just open two Chrome instances?
Yeah. So you open another tab and you open the Chromecast application inside your Chrome on the laptop. And you can, it's not that easy to emulate, but you can emulate it using console. There are some add-ons for Chrome that emulate it and things like that. Do you have any specific question? Maybe I don't know what you're expecting for an answer.
Tell me your development time of the quickest application. Is it hours or minutes?